Good evening. Patrick here, 8 Questions with, and glad you guys are here early. Uh, this is a rare treat for us. Um, Let me get my peepers back on here because nobody wants to see a lazy eye. People might think I'm Jack Elam. All right. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We will be talking to our good friend Don Zombie, or Don Nichols is his name, but we call around here, we call him Don Zombie. Yeah. Uh, Definitely one of the more popular characters floating around here in our film community. And he will be here shortly to hang out with us and our special co host, uh, the dashing, the sassy, the maverick, Lady Valarie from Viewz will be our co host today. So between her and I, we'll be asking Don all sorts of questions, along with you guys here in the mighty chat that will be here engaging with your own questions. Ask Don anything. That's what he said. Ask him his shoe size, his favorite sock color. Ask him anything. His favorite food. That's right. Hi, Katie. How are you? And there's Reed. We got to get Reed up here. We got to get the horror cat dad up here, and that's coming. That's coming. We got a lot of excitement coming up here soon. Soon. Um, well, I don't even know where to begin, and I guess I'll start with the beginning. I was just reading before I was waiting to come on. I was reading about the new Fantastic Four movie, and they're dropping the cast for the Fantastic Four. And I got to be honest with you, man, just I'm just wasn't impressed with it. Not impressed at all. Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby as Susan Storm, a young kid named Josh Quinn as Johnny Storm, and then some guy whose name I can't pronounce is going to be Ben Grimm. I, I was just thinking actually to compare it to the first movie. I love that cast from the first movie. Um, it was Ian Griffith as Mr. Fantastic, Jessica Alba as Susan Storm, Chris Evans was Johnny Storm, did a great job, and Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, who was fantastic. And then we had, though I didn't like his origin story, but we had a great villain in Doctor Doom. I thought that Julian McMahon was really good in the role, but man, some of the dialogue he was given to speak in that movie was painful. Um, but otherwise, though, but I did like that cast a lot. So now, of course, Don likes horror movies, and he also has though I haven't seen too many of these lately, so we'll have to ask him about that. But Don is probably the only person I know to start a watch party at 3 o'clock in the morning on his channel. Watch party at 3 a.m. Eastern time. Yeah, that's even impressive for out in the West Coast. Let's do a watch party at 12 midnight. That's that's actually pretty fun. But the 3 a.m. is crazy. Um, but the funny thing is, he will find a movie to watch. He will let people know about it. And then when you go there, you find out that there are people there at 3 o'clock in the morning doing a watch party. That's amazing. And it tells you how popular Don is as well. Don's a he's very creative with his videos. I know that he's starting a new podcast with Larry, the horror cat dad. They just started that out on their channels. Um, hey Russell, how are you? How are you? Uh, um, Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Share us out if you guys can. Um, But it speaks to his popularity that he could do a watch party at 3 a.m. and get everybody there. He also got, like I said, he also got the podcast going out with Larry. Um, and he's a overall he's just a really nice guy. And that's really important to have that in our community. Um, all right. Let's see. Russell says that he's hey Cheetah and chat fam, loved on. I'm late because of the night watch. Well, I'm sure that Night and Coriander has something cool on their channel going on there. Um, but now we're taking that title away from them for a minute. That's right. We're going to become the coolest channel for a couple hours here. I want to thank everybody who came out yesterday. We had our second showcase, our bipolar showcase. Yesterday we had our second band from Bipolar Records come out and hang out with us. Boot Sweat from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I had a lot of fun with that. If you have missed that, that was yesterday's show. Um, I really didn't realize that yesterday's show was number 400. I just let that slip through my fingers, by the way. But last night's show was actually number 400. That was crazy. 400 episodes. Now, I guess in my head, I need to go back and go through them all. I don't necessarily think I've done 400 interviews. There's been a few shows where we didn't have guests, and so we just kept going. There's a couple of roundtable shows or what have you. So it's not 400 interviews. I still think we're probably like 10 or 12 people away from that. Um, but still, we've done 400 of these things, 8 questions with, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. And we hope that you've been enjoying the ride as much as we've been bringing it to you. Um, we are going to be doing another Women in Entertainment Month in March. And I have to say, as always, it's very entertaining trying to fill the holes up for Women in Entertainment Month. Um, but we got some good people coming up. We got a lot of fun coming up for that, and we're still working hard on it. Hopefully we'll get a few more holes plugged in and tell you when who some of the guests we're going to have. I'll probably be naming some of the guests early next week, probably next week's show. Right now, I don't want to say anything because I'll jinx it. It's the hardest month to book. It's the hardest month to book is Women Entertainment Month. So I think if I start saying who's on the show, it'll jinx it. So we're gonna wait. Um, of course, tomorrow night we have 3 great shows left this week. We have tomorrow night we have Joe Lujan from Carcass Studio will be here. Now many of you guys don't have we haven't had Joe on the show, and that's all on me. That's wholly on me. For the love of God, I cannot tell you why I've waited all this time before I had Joe Lujan on this show. Because Joe, if you go to Hobbs Horace channel and you go to the playlist for the Midnight Hour, on the 13th show of the Midnight Hour, we had Joe Lujan as a guest on there. Joe was mighty. Um, in fact, him and Brendan Slagle, another director who we've had on the show here, I got to give those guys I got to give them so much credit because there's one thing that those two guys they will hit any and answer any question you throw their way about their art. They are not afraid to answer any question about their films at all and do it in such a kind and respectful way. Because we gave Joe we gave him a bit of a baptism on the Midnight Hour. And he is such a pro, and he's just a badass. What can I say? Joe Lujan, he's created many multiverses in his own and with his company. He's published a comic book. His Carcass Studio has done the Immortal War series. He's also done the Decay series. He's also done the Billy series from Rust, and they're all in one universe. And they're relentless. They're relentless. He makes them up there. He cranks them out. He releases them. You can see Joe Lujan's movies on Tubi right now, and I recommend that you do. And please, um, by all means, he is a very entertaining director, and he will be here with us tomorrow night. And I'm really glad that he is. I'm really it's gonna be hard for me to. I'm gonna need some help in the chat tomorrow, so I don't become target fixated. Because I'm gonna be wanting to talk with Joe. I'm just gonna want to ask him like 50,000 questions. Um, and then of course Friday we have Corin Nemec will be here at 8 o'clock as well. And we've gone through Corin's. Anybody who's in horror knows who Corin Nemec is. Anybody who's in science fiction knows who he is. Anybody who loves 90s TV and movies know who Corin Nemec is. And of course, Stephen King fans know who Corin Nemec is as well. So he is going to be here on Friday, and we're going to be asking him a lot of questions. He will answer any questions that you may have. And I love his answer. Um, him and I had talked on the phone, and one of the things that I try to do when I do this show, is I work very, very hard at making sure I'm not asking the same questions that these guests have been asked before, some of the better well-known guests. Um, but I'll save that for another time because the doorbell has rang. I don't know if this is going to be Lady Valarie, because I know this is Valentine's Day and Lady Valarie's out with her husband, or if this is going to be Don Zombie. Yeah, sloppy hand heart. Shh. All right. Let's go get who it is. Let's see.
Yeah.
Shit.
Sorry to let you down.
Everybody who's sitting there waiting for you to come out with sloppy hand hearts and yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all here. They're all here. So now, when you did that, that's just like one of the best videos ever. That rates it right up there with Ricky from Old AF Reviewer when they did the chili challenge. As far as the best video I've ever seen on YouTube, is that's that Don Zombie ad. Oh my gosh!
No, Patrick.
No, seriously. Oh, and the cool thing about it is that Bones plays it a lot on when he does the Boneyard. He'll do the sloppy hand heart, and he'll do the Don Zombie one, and people just absolutely love it.
Those guys, the Boneyard, so like supportive, awesome people.
Had you ever done anything like that beforehand? I mean, where did that come from? Where did you get that idea to do Don Zombie at?
Like most of us, we just put out what we put out, and if something catches on, we're lucky. And one of the few videos I put out that actually caught on was a review of the trailer for Rob Zombie's Monsters film on Netflix. It's not very good, but that was one of the few videos I had that caught on and got into the teens and 20s of thousands of views. So I felt like I had some connection to Rob Zombie that way. So I decided just to, since I play a lot of different characters and goofy roles on my channel, I thought let's do Rob Zombie, except we'll do Don Zombie, and also Count DeFuck makes an appearance. Yeah,
I know. I love that saying. I was thinking. I was thinking when you heard that one, I was thinking, if we put Bones and Don together on that, because I got Bones teamed up with a lot of people, by the way. I have him teamed up with the Ice Lord to do secondhand ballas. I have Bones teamed up with a lot of different people. But I was thinking you and him could come up together because he loves saying that too. What the fuck? And then, then the Count the Fuck. I was thinking, those two. There you go. Got a show right there.
Oh, thank you.
And he just walked in too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he got here just at the right time.
Yeah. Don't tell him I said anything.
No. We hate that guy.
Yeah, boo Bones.
Mr. Bones is an awesome part of the community. I'm lucky to have such a good friend.
Yeah, he's definitely he's just straight out baller. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I see we
Now
have lots of awesome friends in the chat. Echo and Russell and Popping the Popcorn, a
that's
bunch of
right.
familiar regulars, the easy to love people there.
Your new podcast partner is up there. Of course, Larry from Horror Cat Dad. He's up there, and Katie. And of course, we'll be joined a little bit later by Lady Valarie, who's spending some quality Valentine's Day time with her husband, having dinner. She said that she'll join us as soon as she gets home.
Good
Um,
deal. My
yeah.
fellow Wisconsinite.
Um, so you were going ahead and you're doing the Don Zombie thing. So you're thinking, okay, this is something I can do.
Yeah,
Um,
I was kind of I usually keep I look around for some sort of props or something I can do to create a character. I like all Saturday Night Live, SCTV. I like all those old shows where people create their silly characters and do impersonations and stuff. So um, I had a brown wig and an old beat up cowboy hat, and I was like, this is the start of something. So um, since we needed different horror things for that was for my horror YouTuber of the month award for October, which I was very thankful for. Thank you to all who made me that. And so I wanted to include, Jason and Michael Myers and some of the classic horror characters. And at this point, Rob Zombie's kind of made his way into the horror realm that people recognize. So I thought, why not add him in there?
uh, that's a good idea. It's yeah, what you're saying. We added him in here. He's managed to claw his way into the horror spectrum, even though it's really funny. Other than the first, really the Devil Rejects films, he really hasn't done all. I mean, yeah, I know some
Yeah.
people swear by his first Halloween movie, but I also know people who disown him for the second one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
he's a polarizing horror figure, don't you think? I mean,
As far as his movies go, some I like, some I don't. I really liked The Devil's Rejects a lot. I thought like 31 was, Lords of Salem was interesting. I liked House of a Thousand Corpses, etc. But he's real hit or miss. Mainly, I admire the guy because he just is one of those people that gets to do everything he wants. He wanted to make rock and roll music, so he made rock and roll music. He wanted to make horror art, he made horror art. He wanted to be a director, and he figured out a way to be a director. He even gets his wife jobs, like you kind of make fun of. It's like, hey, I work with the lady I love, so it's all right.
I personally feel that is his major stopping point. That's why he's never been really been accepted, um, because of the insistence that he's putting her out there. And she's not a very good actress, and it's like she wouldn't, any if it was anybody other than him, she wouldn't got anything at all. And I think people I think they sort of resent that, being like you keep forcing her down our throat. Um, do you feel like that? But though it's sort of a microcosm, don't you think, in a sense that that's Hollywood, though, to horror fans, that they keep bringing some of these old ideas and jam them down our throat with all these sequels and reboots and retcons. Um, they do the same thing to us as Don Zombie, as Rob does with his wife. He keeps on jamming them down, and you're like, it's something that we're not really supportive of that. Um, I mean, how do you feel? Do you think that's a fair analogy, fair comparison?
Um, I mean, I understand like what you're saying, that it is odd that every one of his movies she has to be like the star, or they have some sort of like load bearing. She carries a lot of weight in all his movies, even if she's not the star, like in the Halloween movies or whatever. But I think nepotism and people working with like certain groups, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan or whatever, certain people just get lumped together. So like, I think Rob Zombie and his wife just sort of are a package deal at this point. I don't really, I think fortunately because of horror movies, a lot of times actors, who are, I don't know, maybe more pretty than they are talented, both men and women have a tendency to get into the horror field. But otherwise, yeah, I don't really have a lot of complaints either way. I find he is a bit derivative at times, but he also does a lot of homage. I like that he does hire horror classics, with Sid Haig, and he made sure to Dee Wallace and Oh Jesus, who else does he have in his movies? Uh, uh,
I know he uses
Ken
Daniel Roebuck
Foree.
a lot.
Pardon?
I know he uses Daniel Roebuck a lot, which I
Daniel
really
Roebuck, exactly. He's great. Uh, um, Danny Trejo has turned up in his stuff before. He goes out of his way to try to, bring in Bill Moseley, things like that. He's good about knowing his horror history, and I think a lot of the stuff he does do walks a fine line of being homage and being, copycat or whatever. But
he's all.
um,
It's safe to say he's almost like, in a sense, he's almost like the horror version of Quentin Tarantino.
very similar. I think Quentin is a huge influence on the stuff he does make. Because
And the
especially
way
in like Devil's Rejects, a lot of the dialogue sounds like Quentin dialogue.
and the same sort of stunt casting, so to speak,
Yeah.
that does, like the same thing with Tarantino. Um, let's see. They go to the chat real quick. Everybody saying hi to everybody. That's awesome. Echo saying he only casts his crackcore wife, so she will let him touch her. Damn, Echo. Echo's on
Echo's always got the harshest takes.
yeah, yeah. Uh, Echo's on fire. Mr. Bones, I really don't care what he does or who he hires. You guys don't have to watch him. Mr. Bones is feeling frisky today. And like downstairs, there's plenty of crews that do that, like the Apto crew and Kevin Smith and his Ass crew. Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes it could work. Sometimes it can work. Sometimes the John Ford. I call it the John Ford, where John Ford did that. He would hire. He had a Rolodex, and he had the same 100. He had 100 actors in there, and he would cast every one of those 100 actors everything that he did.
Yeah.
That's what he did. And that's an old thing. And Jack Webb, of course, from Dragnet days, he did the same thing. I mean, you could watch one episode and see the same cast in different roles the next episode, the same people. And
Yeah.
and I think there's we talked to directors who talked that they do that because they like the reliability, they like the dependability. But sometimes though, I think if you do it too often, I've had directors tell me this too. I've had directors say that they've gone to go ahead and do a new movie, and one of the things the producers have come out and said, say, okay, we're going to do a movie with you, but under one condition: you can't have anybody that you've already had on your movies. We want you to cast fresh faces. So that does happen. Um,
It well, I think there's two main factors. Is one, you like to work with the people you have a rapport with. So someone like Martin Scorsese often works with the same people over and over and over again because they speak the same. They understand each other. They know where they're coming from. But I think a lot of times, like when you were talking about Ford, Howard Hawks, Hitchcock, some of the classics, they also had the obligation of like using the people that were under contract to the studio they were working with. So it's like, well, we can only use Jimmy Stewart as our leading man, basically, because we have a contract with him for 8 films or whatever. So we got to use him. But yeah, I think like you were saying, some people get like a repertory company. If you see a Quentin Tarantino movie and Tim Roth and Samuel L. Jackson don't turn up, it's like they must have been way busy.
yeah,
We know
right.
they're going to be there.
Yeah, you watch the movie and you don't see them, and you go back there and say, I got to rewatch it because they must been underneath the skies or something. They must have been
Lots
playing
of
a
times
different part.
you'll hear Samuel L. Jackson's as a voiceover, or Harvey Keitel is like a voiceover or something.
Uh, when did you get into movies? How old were you? Oh, where were you born and raised at? And how did you start your love affair with movies?
I was born outside of Chicago, Waukegan, Illinois, home of Ray Bradbury and Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider. um, uh, I moved to Wisconsin when I was a teenager. So that's where I reside now, is in the Dairyland. But most of the time, I'm, as you mentioned earlier, with me being up in the middle of the night, I have a weird sleep disorder. I'm nocturnal. If the sun's out, I'm exhausted. If it's dark, I'm wide awake. And no matter how much I try to adjust my sleep schedule with melatonin or whatever sleep aids to try to fix it, my internal biological clock, circadian rhythm, whatever, will work its way around to where I'm tired during the day and awake at night. So since no one's around at 2 a.m, and I'm an only child, especially, so I learned to just put on a movie. Don't wake up my parents, otherwise you're going to get yelled at for making too much noise or whatever. So it's like, go find a flick and put it on, maybe watch one or two, and then hopefully doze off. So during the 80s, which a lot of us, fell in love with movies, there was a lot of good stuff to watch. And especially with the VCR and cable, we had more movies available to us than the generations before. So, if you were born in the 60s or 70s, you only got to watch what was on TV, but my generation had a huge library of stuff to see. So I fell in love with it all. Sci-fi, horror, action, in the 80s were the heyday for all that crap, low budget, high budget, great director, bad director, doesn't matter. It's all good stuff. So
Yeah,
2 or 3 movies per night for 40 years, after a while they add up, man.
Now you watch, now we all know you for your horror content, but I have a feeling that horror is just not your only game. I have a feeling like, you'll slip on a noir or a good Western or, a good cop caper, a crime caper. You love all movies.
Yeah, crime drama and horror are just about equal to me. I love a good caper film, a heist film. Horror, especially in the middle of the night. I think there's a long tradition of like the late night horror host. So especially my gig being up after midnight, I feel like creepy, spooky stuff sort of, hits the tone just right. A little bit of a too much broad, big comedy is sort of weird at 2 a.m. for belly laughs. But, turn off the lights, let everything be quiet. You hear the crickets outside, just right for a good slow burn.
Let's see. Everybody's saying hello again. I have to. If I don't be careful, I can lose this. I forget to chat sometimes. So let me get over there and like, hey, Russell's here. Let's see who else. Pat Master, Pat, Happy Pat.
Girl.
Right. That's right. Right. Are you gonna be doing another shout out video? I'm sure that people already asked you that probably like 1,000 times already. Have you thought about doing another one?
Yeah, I'm long overdue. One of the unfortunate things about that video is, even though I probably shouted out a good 100 or so people in our community, there's just so many awesome folks floating around that as I'm editing it, I'm looking at it and it's like, oh, I forgot this person, or, my guy, Jim's Retro Emporium from overseas or whatever, like just people I forgot about. It's like, oh, my buddy Jeff, 101 Bronson, you start realizing, oh, these people weren't included. I made sure to try to group people together, like Mr. Bones and Hobbs Horror. I tried to group you and Valarie together, Carrie Craves Cinema and Popping the Popcorn. I tried to put them together. So I'm sure we've got so many other new groups of people out there that I haven't given enough love to.
Now that's the problem with a growing YouTube channel is when you're smaller, it's not a problem because you know everybody you talk to. But as you've gotten more popular, it's much more harder to stay in contact with everybody that you know, because now instead of just a couple hundred people, now you have like 1,000, and it's just like a lot of people. It's like like then you start missing their notifications and stuff like that, and they'll sit there and say, "Hey, did you see my latest review?" And you go like, "No, I didn't. I have the bell, but I didn't see it." It's that's sort of part. That's probably the major part about YouTube that I really dislike. That part, like me, it's
frustrating that YouTube is a strange combination of creating entertainment, like a public access cable channel back in the day or something, but it's also social networking. So there's a weird mixture, and there just isn't enough hours in a day to keep up with everybody. So sometimes you have to like search folks out and do binge watches. I'm telling my buddy, Cinephile Sanity, Sean, he's a good dude. I enjoy his stuff so much, but him and Juno do late night watch alongs, and I'm so far behind on his stuff. I was like, I gotta have a Juno or a Sean day, Same with the Boneyard. I saw the Boneyard's been putting out good movies every night, and I'm like, oh, I got to catch the Boneyard, but I also got to do stuff for myself. There's only so many
Right.
hours in a day. It's exhausting.
Um, it is. It is. And but you yourself, like I mentioned that you're not afraid to start a watch party at 3 a.m. And like you're the only person I know. Honestly, you're the only person I know on this side of the pond that can do a watch party at 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m., and you'll have heads in your chat. Now, if I try to do a watch party, there would be nothing but me and the cheetah. There, no one would come over and watch that. You know, I think I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a chance to, you show a lot of movies that maybe, and you have this in common with Jason the Nice One, is the fact that a lot of times you show movies that people don't really know about. Like nobody knows some of the movies you show. And I really
Yeah.
like that. It's like I think it's really neat because a lot of times you go to the channels and they're doing watch parties of everything that we've all seen before. And it's like
Yeah.
it's cool, but man, just to be able to sit there and introduce someone to a double indemnity, like
Yeah.
and have them sit there and say, "What movie is this?" Bingo! You've done exactly what you wanted to do. You brought something new to somebody else to sit there and say, "Discover this." Um,
Um,
now,
cult cinema has always been one of my. We were talking about the genres. I don't know if you would consider cult cinema a genre, but just things that certain groups of people fall in love with that maybe you spread word of mouth. Those are the best ones.
let's see. But the professor just walked through the door. Hi, Professor. How are you? And Caveman. All right, all right. Thank
Right
you.
here. Hello. Yeah.
Feel free to share us out. Feel free to share us out. Um, so here you are. When did your night? Was that at the medical issue? When did it happen? When did you notice that you were starting to have a hard time staying awake during the day?
As
Um,
far back as my memory goes, like the way people complain that babies wake up in the middle of the night and start crying, and the mothers or parents have to get up and take care of them. Like mine never went away from the time I was 4 and 5. I remember just being awake at 3 in the morning and watching old reruns of like the Lone Ranger or the old George Reeves Superman, because that was what was on in the middle of the night, that old black and white stuff. Like I've seen all the Twilight Zones 3 and 4 times over. Um, so luckily, like I say, when the cable and the VCR came along, I was saved. That helped me out a lot.
Man, people, I know a lot of people here, we're older, so we can remember the days of independent TV stations, and holy
Yeah.
crap. I mean,
Oh,
on one
it
hand, it
was.
was great, it's like, okay, because they showed a lot of, like horror hosts and stuff like that. But then there's some stations, all they would show is repeats of Get Smart, like 7 or 8
Yeah.
times, because that's all
And
they
I've
could have.
I've seen all the Get Smarts, by the way. Yeah. Same with Dragnet you mentioned earlier. Those were all late night, middle of the night, just whether you liked them or not. That cursed 4 a.m. Playing of the national anthem with the flag and the TV would go off the air. Folks nowadays
Right.
don't know that.
No, yeah, the TV stations back in the day, a lot of them used to go off. You're right, they go off the air. That concludes our broadcast day, and then they play the national anthem, and then they would come back in a couple hours, and like, channel 22 is now on the air, and then they would do the same thing, play the national anthem, and then they start, this is a new old episode of Hazel.
Hazel. My favorite Martian.
God. What were some of your favorite shows when you watched back there? Like when before
Oh,
they just before they got worn out, before you just said, no, I just can't.
yeah, the basically the whole what's it called, TV Land for a while. They used to do Nickelodeon used to just be one channel, and it would be kids programming during the day, and then at night it would go to Nick at Night, and then Nick at Night later on became TV Land, a separate channel. But all the stuff that was on TV Land, like Dragnet and Dobie Gillis and all of those weird shows that were just black and white. Uh, uh, Yeah, My Favorite Martian, My Three Sons, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, like all these terrible shows, but that was all that was on because you only had 4 channels back then. So that's why
Right.
I'm such a big, why I insist on saying cable and the VCR like changed my life because it was like, oh, now I choose. They don't choose.
It's really twisted too, for the longest time, once cable got going, is that all those TV shows that we used to watch as a kid that we like, oh my gosh, are they playing this again? Come
Mhm.
on, how many times can Andorra change Darren into a frog, And the funny thing is, you sit there, you watch that, but then all of a sudden cable came on to play, and next thing you know, and then the independent stations started being sold to the networks, and before you know it, all those shows went away.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I mean, they all, like now. I'm sure half the people in this chat right now are looking at the shows that you and I are just talking about. I am
Mhm.
half those people in that chat right there have no idea some of the shows we're talking about.
Oh, you guys have never lived till you've watched Car 54, Where Are You? And followed up by My Brother the Car. Or My Mother the Car. That's what it is.
That's
Yeah,
right,
My
my
Mother
mother.
the Car. Yeah.
It's so weird when you sit there, it's like, and you like who was it? I was watching Dale on movies, and he's doing movie swap, and they're talking about movies, the format is he brings a movie that he wants you to watch, you give him a movie that he hasn't watched, that you've never seen before. And I got to be honest with you, I was sitting there going like, okay, like he says, well, the movie I picked for Kenny Sparks is In the Heat of the Night, and I'm
Oh,
going
okay.
like, oh, I'm going like, what? Come on, everybody knows about that movie.
Yeah, they made it
Everybody,
into a TV show.
yes, they made it to a TV show. Everybody knows about that. He didn't. He had never heard of it. He said
Oh, man.
the only thing he remembered, the only thing he knew about that movie was the slap scene. And that's it. But when you and I were growing up, hell, they used to play that thing all the time. They used to play it on PBS.
Oh, Sidney Poitier is like
Yeah.
one of the most like esteemed actors in my mind. Like when people run through all their classic, like amazing actors, I'm always like, don't forget Poitier. That's my guy.
Okay, so here we go. I'm looking at the chat right here, and let's see. The professor mentioned he watched the hell out of I Dream of Jeannie.
Yep.
Yep. Barbara Eden was very pretty, and Gilligan's Island because Marianne and Ginger. That's right.
That
Hi
sounds like the
Sam, how are
professor.
you?
That sounds like the professor. That's the professor I know.
That's right. The professor be sitting there, Ginger, Marianne. Screw that. Give me that Mrs. Howe. Let's see. Hobbs is mentioning 70s series. Laverne and Shirley and Happy Days. Yep. That's right. That's right.
Both from Milwaukee. Both take place here. You gotta love those.
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of these old shows that we grew up on, all these TV shows that we grew up on, like I was watching The Love Boat, and people were like, huh, what? And it's like,
Mhm.
oh my God! It used to be as soon as you mentioned that show, people start singing it. As soon as you said,
Mhm.
and it's like, not you still get that reaction a little bit, but not nearly like it used to be. It's different, isn't it? I mean, viewing
The
what
syndicated shows, I think, kind of came in waves. Like when I was a kid, it was still acceptable to show black and white because my parents' generation all had black and white. So I saw all those old black and white ones. But then by the time my generation came along, it was all in color. So by the time I got to be a teenager, Fantasy Island and Love Boat and The Fall Guy and all those became what was on in the middle of the night. And then now it's what Seinfeld, Big Bang Theory. You kind of know the staples of syndicated television.
hmm Yeah, and it's really weird how it's changing because before Sam's mentioning My Favorite Martian.
My Favorite Martian. Yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Oh, that's right. That's right. The Ghost of Mrs. Muir. Shit. Boy, that girl.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Arnold Thomas
But
is still with
even those old movies, like I was trying to explain to somebody the other day about Charlie Chan. He was like an Asian detective, but nowadays it's incredibly un-PC. So there's probably like 50 or 100 Charlie Chan movies that they just don't show anymore because it's, you know, kind of offensive, the stereotype he portrays, but they're just lost to history. You don't see them anymore. They're gone.
Not as much. There are some people, I mean, they've all gone to the way of public domain. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of those movies on YouTube, actually. Sidney Toller played, was in that. And you know who else was in those movies?
Hmm.
You know, one actor was in a lot of those movies? James
Hmm.
James Hong.
Oh, okay.
And he's still with us today.
Yeah.
That guy's like he's almost like an Oriental Kirk Douglas. He's
Yeah.
100 years old and he still works, just like Kirk Douglas did all the way up. It's amazing. And he still looks really young for his age.
Mhm.
He's an incredible character actor. Let's see. Oh, okay. That's right. Hobbs mentioned this. This is true. He just discovered the Lawrence Welk show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That used
The
to be on
Halloween
all the time
specials.
as
Yeah.
well. Yeah. And
Mhm.
it's really interesting when you put on, how do you choose which movie you put on for your watch party? I mean, do you have these old collections? Do you have all these old movies in your film collection?
Most of them. Right now, right now I'm in between homes. I'm bouncing around working on a project, and so a lot of my physical media is in storage. But some of my other older videos, you can see my library behind me. I don't know. My library is probably 6,000 or so films. I never really tried to count them, but when I pick a film, I kind of have this theory that movies are sort of like music. Like there's the right music for any occasion, and the same with movies. You know that today's Valentine's Day, so there's My Bloody Valentine. There's any type of romantic comedy. There's movies that are something like Fatal Attraction. What was it? Last night I watched on Netflix Lover, Stalker, Killer, which is like great Valentine's Day counter programming. You know, if you're not in the mood for lovey-dovey stuff, you can watch the opposite. So I feel like there's always a good movie. You know, if it's Christmas time, you can probably think of 50 Christmas movies. If it's Halloween, you can think of 50 Halloween movies. If it's Arbor Day, what's your favorite movie about trees? You know, there's always a
That
good
happens.
flick to watch.
That
You know,
happens.
you interviewing me, we could be watching Frost Nixon. We could be watching The Conversation. I mean, there's all sorts of movies that plug into what we're talking about. So we just had a big snowstorm and cold weather here. So I watched a bunch of snowy movies and cold weather movies. You know, there's always something to watch that feels like it belongs.
And then people, is it when you sit there and you watch your chat when people come in, does it make you feel good knowing when you see people asking, what are we watching? It's because isn't that the point? Isn't that the point when you come in there and you put that movie on? Isn't that the coolest? When you sit there and say, what is this movie? Or I've never seen this before. And you sit there and you go like, I'm glad, because now I can show you something. This is because I think when you show people movies that mean something to you, like like hey, I'm gonna put on The Thin Man Returns. I'm gonna put that on. I'm gonna show that,
Mhm.
and it's like, to me, it's almost like sharing a part of who you are as a person. This movie means a lot to me, and I'm sharing it with you because you're my friends, you're my
Mhm.
family. So I'm gonna put a movie on here that means something to me. And I think that's a really I think that's I mean, yes, you could go out to Tubi and you could sit there and grab a horror movie, and you could do that, and there's no thought to it. It's just like, okay, I'll just grab this movie here and we'll just watch it. But I think when you take your time and when you take consideration and you sit there and say, yeah, I'm gonna show this movie because this movie meant something to me. It means something to me. I'm gonna
Well,
share.
I like the explaining why it means something to you. You know, why is this personal to me? But
Mhm.
once again, it reminds me of music. You know, it's like we all know the Beatles and the Stones and Taylor Swift and whoever, these huge people that are bigger than Earth. But then we also have our own little, like, I like this band that only like 10 people know about. I saw them live in concert, or, you'll find somebody and you'll say, have you ever heard of the Smiths? Or you'll be like, Elvis Costello, and they'll say, who's that? And you're like, you don't know Elvis Costello? I got to play some Elvis Costello for you. And that's how the movies are. It's we've all seen Gremlins, but it's like, have you seen Night of the Comet? You got to see, or Night of the Lepus, even better.
Yeah, yeah, yes, exactly. I like that. I like that idea a lot. And it's always something, like if you sit right here and people could see this, the banner behind you. Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me where that movie that is? Now watch. This will show you something. So what's the picture behind us right here? In the chat. What's that picture of behind us? Somebody will know because they know about this movie and they know how it relates to me. Hobbs mentioned the Light of the Lepus. That's right. We watched that over on Jim's channel once. That was actually a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah, Tippi Hedren and a couple other people in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really surprised. I'm like, man, I have not seen this in forever. And he put it on there and I'm like, damn, this is really good. It got caught up into it.
Well, you just explain to somebody it's about giant killer rabbits, and immediately they're intrigued. It's like, tell me more. I would like to hear your thoughts on the giant killer rabbit movie.
And then what was the Night of the Frogs or something like that?
Yeah,
Frogs, environmental, crazy. That was really cool as well. It's just saying, man, I haven't seen this since I was a kid. But as soon as I sat down and watching it and going like, yeah, this movie's came out in the 70s, but I'm digging it. This is, because a lot of people today, they tend to look down on what's in the past. Oh, that they'll not all these. I mean, there's a lot of horror fans that will talk about the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and whatnot. But it's like outside of horror. What do you like outside of horror? What have you seen outside the staples? I don't know. To me, I think watching stuff that doesn't get as much love as it used to is one of the attractions for me to watching films.
Well, especially when you're a fan of film, you like to see how we got to where we are now. So you go and you watch, some body horror or some like a Invasion of the Body Snatchers type movie nowadays. And then you have to go back and see all the Invasion of the Body Snatcher movies. And then you have to watch The Thing. And then you have to watch Thing from Another Planet or Thing. You have to go through all these different like building blocks that get us to where we are. You mentioned Ford earlier, I'm a big Howard Hawks guy or Hitchcock. When you see their movies, you see, oh, okay, I see how this influenced the thrillers and the suspense movies we have now, where things came from. I think that's why Citizen Kane still stands up and people talk about it, is because it's a building block movie. It leads to the creation of so many other movies.
I love when people talk about that movie and they start talking about Orson Welles. And to me, my favorite trivia I like to share is Orson Welles played the Shadow on the radio show.
Yeah, the old Shadow Nose. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Man, that's still Alec Baldwin's best role.
Orson Welles was born in the town I'm from. He was born in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So his birthplace home is there. You can go see it like a museum. So I've been down there several times.
So did you ever get busted when you were watching some of these movies, or did your dad ever come out there and see you out there watching movies and come join you?
Yeah, sometimes. Luckily, my mom was a big lover of film, and she was one of those that was real cool about letting me watch anything as long as it wasn't too raunchy. Like they were fine with horror as long as it didn't give me nightmares. Like if I said, "Oh, I'm scared now" or whatever, then okay, you're cut off. But as long as I was able to handle it, like I remember her showing me The Fog when I was way too young to see The Fog, or her allowing me to watch plenty of just weird horror movies, Friday the 13th and stuff. Way early. My father always was into police procedurals and crime dramas and historical biopics and stuff like that. But my mom was more of the one who really encouraged, as long as you're being a good boy and not hurting anything, you just go in there and watch your movies and be good. It's part of the first generation where the TV was the babysitter.
Well, I guess the next thing I'll ask you is, how old were you when you got your first VHS? And do you remember the first movie that was given to you for that format?
Um, the first movie I ever owned on VHS, I remember, was my uncle had a tiny bit part, a cameo. I believe I'm not sure if he even got a credit. He was in a David Carradine movie called Cloud Dancer. And he was the crazy uncle who would come into town like once a month, maybe like once a year, and he'd bring you some present. At one time he moved, he was in Arizona and he came to visit and he brought me a tarantula he had captured in the desert. He was that kind of uncle.
Right.
So he had some girlfriend who was a bit actress in a David Carradine movie, and he went to pick her up on set one day, and the guy directing said, "Hey, we need henchmen for the bad guy to pull up and shoot at David Carradine. You'll only be on screen for like a second." So Cloud Dancer was this movie, and my mom, I remember ordering Cloud Dancer on VHS, and it was $110 back in like 1984 or whatever, which nowadays would be like what, $300-400.
Oh
So
my God. VHS
yeah,
tape crazy expensive.
yeah. So that was the first VHS we ever owned, was that one that had my uncle in it, and then the second one we ever bought was the Batman '89, price to sell at 1999. So that was the start of the VHS collection.
Oh
But
man, that's a good one to start off with. I really didn't get into it too much. In fact, I think the first VHS tape that I ever bought was actually Starship Troopers. That was the first
oh
time I
wow,
ever bought a VHS tape. I
that was
I
probably they weren't affordable before then.
No, no, and then
No.
and then by the time I did get it, the reason I hadn't gotten it before, because you're afraid to get it because you're afraid it would break, and then that would be it. So
Hmm.
it was like, oh man, do I really want to do this? Because it was so expensive, and
Yeah.
we couldn't touch the VHS players nor the tapes. We weren't allowed to. If we did, that week we were grounded.
Yeah,
This let me
exactly.
check this chat
Do
real
not
quick.
open up that little door and touch the black tape on there at all. Do never do
No,
that.
and always rewind. Let's see.
Be kind.
See, Maya's talking about what they watched on the Boneyard yesterday, a movie called Teeter Burger.
I
Um,
never heard of that. I saw it go by on my thread. I need to check that out. Tater burger.
we watch a lot of food. I think Haas mentioned that we watched some food. We've actually done some food watch-alongs. Like we watched in Insanity, or something about a killer sloppy Joe. Um, I wish I could tell you that I'm making that up, but we didn't. I see the Incredible Bulk, or
I've seen the Incredible Hulk.
Attack of the
Unfortunately,
Killer Donut. That's a must see. Killer Dodos. Let's see. That was hilarious. Donuts movie is fine, but Bulk, no. Could be
yeah,
worse.
both.
Could be worse. Could have watched the Wendigo like I did, and still suffering for it. If the book would have been released by the asylum, I would have been given up on them on the spot. See the horde. See the Cat Dad mentions the good, bad, and the ugly. God, I never saw that played overnight. They always played that during the prime time, but they used to play the shit out of that growing up.
For
Every
sure.
every other Saturday. So it's the good, bad, and the ugly. It's like, dude, you just played that like 2 weeks ago. Let's see.
Saturday afternoons. Yeah, that was the
Oh,
other
yeah.
classic. Middle of the
Play off.
night, weekend afternoons. Those were your movie channel times. Kung Fu Theater on Saturday afternoons. That's where I saw
That's
all
right.
the kaiju and kung fu movies. Yep.
That's right. That's right. 3:30. The ABC 3:30 movie of the week, movie of the day. It's 3:30 to 5. And they have Godzilla week. We all be in there watching Godzilla movies.
Oh, for sure.
Um, let's see. Catch up here. Everybody's saying hello, hello. Mr. Dan, the whore's in the house. Greetings, sir. Greetings. Mayan says she's not friends with Bones or Echo or anymore after watching Teeter Burger.
Man's a discerning critic. I like that about her.
You're doomed, Bones and Echo. Wanted Dead or Alive, and Gene Simmons is the sequel to the old television show with Steve McQueen. That's right. That's right.
Oh,
That
wow.
yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. I got a couple of seasons of that.
Wanted Dead or Alive. Yeah, I bet. Was that a library find? You get all the good library movies.
No, actually, I got those. I got those at Dollar Tree.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's funny, and now this is a true story. Because they used to play it really early in the morning. I never saw Have Gun Will Travel until I moved here to Michigan, and they had a cowboy station on Stars Westerns,
Okay.
and on New Year's Day they said we're going to play. We're going to be showing Have Gun Will Travel, so we're going to do a marathon of it. I had never seen the show. I remember seeing it on TV Guide and but I had never watched it. Man, I tell you what, I was
The
my wife my
marathon.
wife my wife had to come over there with a spatula to get my ass off the chair and go outside with her, 'cause I was sitting there going, "This is so good. This is so good." And that's where the cheetah got his name from me watching
Yeah,
that for
Paladin.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Uh,
the name of your channel too. The Have
that
Cheetah Will Travel became Have Have
that's
Cheetah
right.
Will Interview.
That's
Yeah.
right. I love the show. I think some of the early shows, I mean, looking back at it, which show really stuck with you? Give me some shows that stuck with you that helped shaped you as far as what you watch, because it does. What we watch
Yeah.
when what we watch when we're young stays with us through as we as adults. And
Um,
what are some of the shows that were special to you that mean something to you?
the two that were like the building block of everything for me were The Twilight Zone and Alfred Hitchcock Presents, because those were reliably awesome every time, and they're anthology. So you don't have to know anything other than just what you're watching right now. You don't have to know any of the characters because you're going to learn it in just that little period. And even now, I love a good, mind F movie. Something that just twists your mind. You can't believe the ending. It has a good twist. It holds your attention. Where's this going? And those had that. And especially for a young mind, when you're 6 or 7 and you watch, To Serve Man, the Twilight Zone episode, it'll blow your mind.
And,
Um,
and, and growing up in the '70s, I mean, I mentioned this before, but Jesus Christ, man, the '70s, man, what a depressing place to be as far as watching movies, because every freaking movie had a bad ending, a sad ending. I mean,
yeah.
nobody ever really got out of it alive in the '70s. You go back to some of the classics on there, and they're like, everybody dies. That's what because the country was so pessimistic because of the Cold War,
Hmm.
and it was just like, man. And so every
And
it seems like,
Watergate and a bunch of
yeah,
stuff. People were just very jaded in the 70s. So, and I also think prior to the 70s, like the first, probably like 40 or 50 years of Hollywood cinema, there's a lot of movies. Nothing's been done yet. So you can make any movies. There's a lot of musicals and happy just stories being told. But by the time they get to the 70s, they've run out of stories to tell. So they start telling these sort of counterculture stories and anti-hero stories. And
right.
then that's where leads us to now, where you're talking about Attack of the Killer Donuts and these. It's like, well, we've run out of stories, so now we have to do Attack of the Killer Donuts.
Yeah, but the Attack of the Killer Donuts is freaking genius, though. It's Dodo Attack of the Killer Dodos is genius. I mean, that's just like, I dare anybody to watch donuts and not just have a hankering to go get a donut afterwards.
I have a
Um,
I have a hankering for donuts always.
Mr. Bone says, I don't know. I thought Don was younger than all the stuff he's talking about.
No, well, a lot of it is rerun, but yeah, I'm almost 50. I'm pushing it. So I'm in that sweet spot where the 80s and the 90s were my main heyday, and I saw everything in there. And then everything prior to the 80s is all catch up, and everything post the thousands is like, yeah, I guess I'll watch this because I have to.
Um, it's sort of cool too, though. We mentioned a lot of these shows have been pushed off. Pushed off. There's no more independent TV stations anymore. But it does seem like some stations now, they have those stations, the substations, or they'll have the retro stations, and that's been making a nice comeback. like WeTV or MTV, MeTV, and they have a Grit and the Heroes and Icons. There's a lot of
Oh,
TV stations out there now with a lot of these older classics that disappeared from network TV from but of course from the antenna TV. You couldn't really catch any of those anymore because they just they just nobody was showing them anymore. You
yeah.
look at network TV. You look at most of your TV stations around now, and they got news. I mean, look at soap operas. Soap operas are the last true remnants of probably the '70s TV. They're the last true remnants, and they're holding on by fingernails. There's like 4 shows. There's 4 shows left. After that, everything that was of the '70s, it will be all gone as far as how we watch TV. Um,
That's
it's
that's one of the problems with being the night owl, though, is I never was able to get into soap operas because they were always on when I'm exhausted or at school. So, you know what I mean? They're on in the daytime, like at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. or something, but like, they don't re-show General Hospital at 2 in the
no,
morning.
no.
You know?
Um, Now, did you struggle with school? I mean, did was that a
Terrible.
problem? Terrible, but
Terrible. Yeah, I
nobody made
always
it go
got
away.
C's in school, except for reading. Reading and history, I always did like A's and A pluses because most of it's just like movies. I know this history quiz because I watched the movie about Napoleon, or I watched the movie about Patton, so I know all about it. But like as far as applied sciences and things, yeah, very, very difficult. Mathematics I still suck at in all ways because you have to really be wide awake and smart at 1 in the afternoon, and I am not.
So, did they ever figure out what was wrong medically speaking? Was it
it's
just
just been
something?
it's always just been referred to as nocturnalism with any time I've ever talked to them. The main thing they try to do is give me sleeping pills, and they don't really work. They just sort of sedate me and make me groggy, but they don't make me fall asleep, and I don't like that feeling. So I've just learned to accept that I'm a raccoon. I'm I'm awake when it's dark, man. I don't know.
So your job that you do now, it allows you to work at night, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of gig work regarding video. Mainly video transfers was the main thing I was supplying my income for a long time because so many people needed things transferred from analog to digital. So as long as you have the proper equipment to do that, you can make a decent living at it as long as you hustle and get out and find people to do it. But then those big companies kind of came along and had the thing where put all your stuff in this box and send us to us and we'll send it back, and they could undercut my prices and things. Um, but I've done, luckily third shift has been what I've always looked for. And I excel in third shift jobs when other people are real tired and dragging ass. I'm wide awake and can do the work of 2 people.
Right. Well, plus they pay more too for that reason.
Yeah, that
Third.
extra couple bucks an hour is always nice.
See, Mr. Bones counts the fuck.
He knows. He knows.
See, Dawn is a vampire just without the magic powers.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
really? Huh. Well,
I don't drink blood, but I've been known to turn into a bat.
you should hang out with Al. You should ask Al for the secrets. He's a bat. See, Russell's mentioning some of the shows that he saw growing up. Land of the Giants, The Time Tunnel, Lost in Space, and Twilight. He grew up watching. Yeah, yep. Some of those shows
Lost
are
in
still being
space.
shown.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of those shows are on WeTV or MT or MeTV or Retro TV. I mean, just so many retro channels now, and it's sort of
That me
cool that they're bringing them back. The only thing I hate about the only thing I hate about those channels is I hate the fact that all the people that worked on those shows, they don't get shit for it.
Oh no, the
Oh, they don't.
residuals back
Yeah,
then were terrible. Um,
they never
but
saw cable coming.
sadly, unfortunately, a lot of those folks are now no longer with us. But the ones who are alive could probably use that money. So, you
Mm.
um, I'm a big Me TV fan because they get it. They have Svengoolie on there, so I always label Me TV as getting it. They understand how things work. They had Svengoolie.
Let's see. As Russell's asking, when is your next live stream? Yeah, let's talk a little bit about. Hey, Mike, how are you, sir? Glad you're here. Glad you're here. Um, all the way over from the UK to say hi. That's awesome. I can't
I
thank him.
love
I can't thank him enough when he pops over there and shows support. Thank you so much, Mike. It means a lot. It really means a lot because I know it's 5 hours ahead of us, and you're still out there giving us a shout out.
well,
Yeah,
the world.
Russell, yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your new show before we get back to your YouTube journey. Um, tell us a little bit about the new show that you got going with Cat Dad.
Yeah. Larry, the horror cat dad, was one of my first good buddies on YouTube. We made friends. We still discuss how that exactly happened, but we became pals, and we're like-minded, birds of a feather kind of thing. And he was one of the main guys who really was supportive and nice to me. And I've explained to people before, if you just have one or two people to make you feel like you're not talking to no one, when you start a YouTube channel, it's like yelling into a void. You feel like you're in that Matrix room where everything's just all white and there's nothing there, and you're just yelling out your thoughts to no one, hoping someone hears. And
Right.
Horror Cat Dad was one of the first people who showed up to pay attention, and then I would pay attention to his stuff, and we'd encourage each other. And he became a friend of mine on Instagram, and he would send me silly memes and stuff, and we just became pals. So we've sort of turned that friendship into kind of I don't know, a bosom buddies type show. We hang out and just discuss current events on a Friday afternoon. Originally, our friend Rob's Vintage Video, big, awesome dude in the horror community and the YouTube film community in general. I love that guy, so be sure to check him out. He had a Friday afternoon show that was very frequent, watched by many of the people in the chat here. And he took a little hiatus. So the same way the old TV shows used to go off for the summer and they'd put a replacement show on for a little bit. Right. We're kind of a replacement show for Rob's Vintage Video till he comes back. We're a placeholder show.
Okay.
So if people enjoy it and it hangs on, we're going to keep going afterwards. We'll maybe find a new time slot or something. But that's kind of how it started. We just wanted to fill that void left by Rob. And then when he comes back, maybe we'll be a follow-up show or something. But it's just the idea of, as Larry describes it, the thing he loved about being a movie nerd growing up is you just hang out with your friends and you talk about what you love and what you've seen that's new, kind of like you and I are doing right now. Just
right.
How'd you get here? What have you seen that's good? Turn me on to something I like, And
I agree. I agree. I fortunately, like you did. I mean, you're right. When you first started YouTube, it does sound like you're all by yourself because you don't know anybody or anything. But fortunately for me, I met the gatekeeper of the community, and him and I have become like brothers. And that's Hobbs. Hobbs has always been there from the very first time I started my channel. So that's
Hobbs and Bones. I love those guys.
Yeah. I did. Yeah. Did you see the cat food video, the cat food bowl video? So Hobbs lost again, and he had I let him off the hook. I let him off the hook. The bet was supposed to be, because we actually did cat food one year, and he says, I'm not doing cat food. But we actually did cat food. So I said, okay, well, this year we'll still call it the cat food bowl, cat food challenge. But I said, here's what we're gonna have to do. So the loser of the loser, I was thinking about meatballs, and so the loser of the bet has to eat a pie. They have to eat a pie on camera, and they can't use their hands. So you got to put your hands behind your back, and you got to eat a pie out of the tin.
Like Revenge of the Nerds?
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what he did. He ended up doing the Revenge of the Nerds pie. He put some whipped cream on a plate, and then he's going like, wait a minute, that's my pie. Yeah, that was the original bet. The original bet was to eat a pie, like an apple pie or cherry pie or whatever, out of the tin without your hands. So you're going to come up looking like looking like Larry from Meatballs. The stomach, trying to beat the stomach.
Or Stand By Me. There's a pie eating contest in there.
Let's see. Hey, Casey, how are you? Happy Valentine. Oh yeah, we should have said that. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Those who have significant others.
Girl.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And
And thank you for coming,
congratulations.
Casey. Casey's awesome.
Of
Big fan
course,
of Internet Kaiju.
Mighty. Yeah. Oh gosh, there's nobody between him and Ben. The and Kaiju is well covered. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Hobbs and Bones and myself. We're all Kaiju fans, but when it comes down to like knowing about it like that, it's definitely Ben and Casey that are king of Kaiju, which
Well,
is
Casey,
awesome.
just in general, is about one of the coolest people I've ever like encountered in the world. He's like the coolest, most chill, smart, laid back. Like, he's got like a real just peaceful voice. He needs a radio show.
Yeah, that's yeah. I was gonna say, that's you discover a lot of people with a lot of hidden talents here on the tube. That's for sure. Um,
Hmm.
so what was the first movie that you did watch that scared the shit out of you and had you yo mom,
Yeah.
or running underneath the bed? What was the first movie that actually did that to you?
Um, I remember late at night one night they had like we talk about how they would do the theme weeks. They had Universal Monsters Week when I was a little kid. You know, it was all the old black and whites. I saw the Lugosi Dracula and the Frankenstein and the Wolfman and all this. And all of them were fine. None of them bothered me. But then we got the Creature to the Black Lagoon. And
Mhm.
that woman swimming, and then the Gillman, he's coming up and he's just about to touch her. Jaws is really heavily influenced by the old Creature from the Black Lagoon. A lot of the suspense that is used in Jaws. And I remember thinking, like, this is genuinely terrifying. And I remember my mom coming in and me having the blanket up over my face, like, the typical the child terrified. And she's like, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Monta movie." And she still says that to me. He's like, "You watching Monta movies?" And it's like, "Yep."
I think you'll be hearing that a lot more now.
Yeah, Monta
Yeah,
movie.
that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good one to be scared of too. It's like you go back and have you watched it since? You got a tattoo of the creature?
I have the famous Monsters of Filmland logo, the old monster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now after that movie, that was your first one. How about when you got into your teen years? What was the movie in your teen years that got you rattled?
It's embarrassing now because people are like, "Well, that's not really that scary." But Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, especially the stuff with like the pencil being stabbed into the ankle and things, like,
Oh,
and the lady being
yeah,
assaulted by the vines in the woods, like
yeah.
all of that psychologically bothered me. And then later on when I was a teenager, I'm like, "Oh, this is funny. Okay, I get it." But there was a 5 year or maybe like 8 year window in there when just even the cover of Evil Dead would kind of make me uncomfortable to see. Like, ooh, this is a scary one.
Oh gosh, the first two, the first one. I mean, oh man, no doubt. I mean, no doubt. Even today, that's just like that's some fucked up shit. That
Yeah,
really
yeah.
is. It's like watching the first time watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, and you see
Oh,
Freddy
that
walking
first
down the alley.
nightmare, that is terrifying. And when the body's flying around the bedroom and you can see the cuts appearing on the body, but no one's there, and just ugh, even that
How about
still
when he
shakes me
walked
up.
in the alley and his arms got longer?
Mhm.
I was like, wow, that my little brother, he checked out. He's like,
Yeah, the
I'm done.
bloody body bag being pulled through the hallway of the school and stuff like that imagery still just stays with me as some of the most terrifying stuff I had seen because it hit me at right the perfect age to see it.
Now, did you ever have a problem with being desensitized by what you watch, or do you think because you watch so many different genres, which I think is what horror fans. I'm going to go on the record of saying this. I think that's what horror fans need to do if they want to have that love of horror. Like I hear so many people say, "I'm desensitized. I'm desensitized," and to me, it's like, man, you lost a reason to watch horror. The
Yeah.
reason you watch horror is to be surprised and to be shocked and to be like, like, holy shit, where did he put that pencil in that? He put that pencil in that girl's ankle. Holy shit! But no, when you're sitting there and you go like, yeah, yeah, whatever. You know, I think you've lost. I think horror fans don't even realize it, that they've lost the love of the reason why they watch horror in the first place. It's because they can't feel the reason why they watched horror in the first place.
The,
They're desensitized, and that's, a lot of people say, oh, I only watch horror. If you want to have that element of surprise and suspense and amazement, you can't. You just can't do it. If that's all you watch, you're not gonna be surprised by anything. And those are a lot of the times those are the same people that sit there and complain about horror movies, saying, "Oh, that was weak," or "That was whack," "That was terrible."
well,
Not
yeah.
really. It wasn't. It wasn't. It was actually pretty good, but because you're so desensitized to it, it's everything looks the same to you.
Yeah.
You need to take a step back and watch something else for a little bit.
Well,
To, to
it's like a healthy diet. You need your vegetables, but you also need some carbohydrates. You need a little, meat in here, whatever, to get a nice round diet. If you only watch horror, there's nothing to compare it to.
right,
You got to
right.
cleanse the palate.
I definitely feel like see, I really like that's really, like I said, that's really what I love about your watch alongs and the different movies that you had. I knew about the 6,000 movies that you had. I've heard you mention that in a stream before, how many movies that you had. And to me, I'm just thinking that how much fun is it to go to your house if once you have your movie room assembled again? How much fun would that be to sit there and pick out a movie to watch because you have so much to choose from?
Yeah, it's like I say, I originally used to keep them in alphabetical order because it was easy to find. But then later on, I went to what I started calling the Donny Decimal System. I put everything together by genre, and then within the genre, I put little subgenres. So there'll be all my crime dramas together, but then within the crime dramas, it's like these are heist movies, these are criminal, like rise to power, kingpin mob movies, these are dirty cop movies, these are, you kind of have your sections. Um, and that's kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. There's a movie for every occasion, or a movie for every thought, or this movie. If you've seen Scarface, now you've got to see American Gangster and King of New York, and like
American
there's
Me.
the related films. Yeah,
See American Me or Blood In, Blood Out.
there you
Uh,
go. Or South Central, or there's so many.
Man, yeah, yeah. And watch prison movies. Breakout with Charles Bronson,
There you
classic.
go.
Man, it's a
Or
classic.
Escape from Alcatraz with Clint, or Colors with Sean Penn is a great gang movie. You just go into all these different subgenres, and then it's like, oh, have you seen? Oh, you saw Colors? Well, have you seen Menace to Society, or have you seen, whatever, Beat Street?
Streets on Fire. Streets on
Yeah,
Fire.
exactly. Streets of Fire is good.
The professor. The professor says that he's got to. Okay. A safe trip home, Professor.
Adios,
Um,
mi amigo.
let's see. Mayan says I'm not gonna lie, I think we're all demented. What's that saying? I think we all are a little crazy. We all go a little crazy sometimes. Wait, I
With
think
the
that
horror movies, though, I feel like people think that the fan of a horror movie is like sort of a twisted person who's into sadism or violence, and it's exact opposite. I find it like Hitchcock explained the reason he liked to do his suspense thrillers is because he was such a sensitive person that he was afraid of everything around him. So he just always saw what could go wrong. And that's how I feel about horror movies. Most of the people I know who like horror are very like loving, caring people and empathetic people. That's why they can relate to these movies where someone's in danger. It's like, I want her to be okay. I want her to escape. If you're
those are
jaded and you hate
I mean,
people, you don't care.
those are the horror fans that aren't desensitized. The ones
Yeah.
that don't aren't, they're the ones that sit there and say, "Yeah, killer." They're the
Yeah.
ones. It's when you're the ones when Saw was coming out once every year, and everybody's sitting there instead of talking about the cast or the trap. The only thing they're worried about was what were the traps going to be. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, well, what about the people in them? Well, who cares? I just want to see the traps. Yikes, like, zoinks. Um,
Yeah.
so so growing up, now you're older and you're more adult. You get your own collection. You got your own movies. How do you go about how do you buy your movies? How do you decide to pick what you enjoy? I mean, is there any method that you have? Do you ever read do you ever read critics, like, or people say, hey, this movie's supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread? Do you go with the crowd, or do you like going the opposite to seeing what's out there?
A little of both. Some stuff I feel like I should see, like as a person, there's no desire in my heart to see Barbie whatsoever. But I will see Barbie at some point because it's part of the cultural phenomenon. It's up for all these Oscars and people talked about it, and it, had all these think pieces written about it. So I feel like I should see it so I'm informed. Um, you know, Stuff like that comes along all the time. Things that it's like, well, maybe I'm not that interested in it, but the world at large is so interested in it that I kind of want to see what they're talking about. The FOMO or something. Fear of missing out.
Right.
Um, but then there's other stuff where, like you talk about just the Tubi classics, where you just start scrolling and you're like, what's this movie with this black and white clown face that looks kind of scary? And then next thing you know, you found Terrifier and you've stumbled into the whole Art the Clown world that you didn't even know existed. So there's and that's how people found Art the Clown. It wasn't a big commercial success. It was all
No.
word of mouth and curiosity. And now that's the biggest thing in horror these days.
I love art. Art is like, he's right behind Sam for me as horror icons. Like,
Yeah,
I love
art.
Sam from Trick or Treat, but I love Art because I'm so proud to sit there and tell people that Art the Clown. I noticed this from watching the very first movie, but then I got a chance to ask that from David Howard Thornton. But I noticed in the very first Terrifier movie that Art was a pretty much a cat guy. He was a bunch of cats, and he wasn't fucking around with the cats. And so I'm like, I noticed that right off watching the movie, and so I asked him, is Art the cat guy, isn't he? He goes, oh yeah, oh definitely, he's a cat guy, and he loves dogs too. It's just like, I said, it's gonna make him very hard now to sit there and watch Terrifier 3 and boo and hiss Art, because she's sitting there going like, hell yeah, that's my buddy Art.
Well,
uh,
I think Art has the same thing that Freddy Krueger has too, though. He looks like he's having fun as a bad guy. Like what he's doing is awful, but at the same time, he's having such fun doing it. It's kind of entertaining.
Definitely. Now, we talked about Don Zombie. We talked about Rob Zombie. So I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about your music. Now, do you have the same love of music as you do for film?
Pretty much. My iTunes library is humongous, thousands and thousands of songs. I was one of those people before my movie collection. I was a CD collector, and then of course the CD went away, and most of those I just transferred to the computer and then either gave away or sold to the CD exchange. Actually, when the CD exchange started carrying DVDs, I traded in almost all my old CDs for DVDs.
Mm. What did you listen to? What did you grow up listening to? What kind of music?
Like I say, I'm a child of the '80s, so most '80s pop, of course, I love. But I also liked the alternative stuff in the '80s. So I'm a big Misfits fan, and Dead Kennedys, and New York Dolls, and I liked a lot of that heavy metal stuff from the '80s. The early Metallica stuff and Megadeth and Iron Maiden and all that kind of stuff. That was my jam. But like I said, a healthy diet. You can't listen to only Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. You also got to listen to Men at Work and Toto. You got to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, to be more well-rounded.
And then in the '90s was, all alternative, either alternative like rock music, or '90s was a heyday of rap. So between the two, that's a lot of what I listened to then. Now I'm an old man. I listen to classic rock stations.
You know what? Okay, so yes, I used to listen to the classic rock stations too, right? and back
Yeah,
back
like Nirvana and Foo Fighters, all the old
Oh,
bands.
don't even get me going. When they're sitting there thinking that now, they're going to, wasn't a classic rock. Here's a song for the Foo Fighters. I'm going like, when the hell did that become a classic rock? That's not
Exactly.
classic.
It
I
hurts my
grew up.
feelings.
That's not that old. And it's like,
Uh-huh. As
man,
a rule, anything that came out in my 30s should not be classic rock.
let's see. Everybody's saying here is the oh, now we're talking gangster movies here. Let's see. I'm not gonna lie, I think we're all demented. I said that one. First horror comedy as a child was Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein from Russell. Second
Love
highest
that one.
grossing film in 1948. I think I have that too. I got a
Love
collection
that.
from the library with that in there. Let's see. Let's see. Now we're talking about gangster movies. New Jersey Drive. Um, Fresh, Training Day. Training Day was great. Juice, New Jack
Juice
City,
is great. Yep. New Jack City is great.
Sugar Hill. Um, let's
Wesley
see.
Snipes.
Let's see. Big Mob fan. Love ex Mob boss Michael Franzi's channel. He reviews mob movies, telling us if it was real or fiction. Let's see.
That's cool.
Yep. Let's see. Their method to the madness. that's a good. That's a good question. Let's see. Mayanne says, "I'm a sensitive soul who loves to sit in the dark and get scared to death." Let's see. Let's see. Pat, you need to watch Thanksgiving. John Carver also likes cats. He kills a guy but feeds his cat before he leaves. My kind of buddy. All right. Yeah, but he killed Karen, so him and I would have to have words. See, love to sit in the dark, but don't get scared. I love the scene from Bone. I love that scene, Bone. Yeah, I have to go back there. Oh, King Diamond. Yeah, King Diamond.
Yeah.
You know why Zombie's going on tour this summer, right?
Yeah, I think is he going back out with Alice Cooper again?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That to me, there's another example when I was saying why I sort of admire Rob Zombie. It's like he grew up with Alice Cooper as his hero, and now they're like buddies and they go travel around together. I mean, that's when people get to live their dreams. I sort of admire that. It's like he knew who he wanted to be and he became that. Whether you like it or not, or anybody likes it or not, isn't really important to him. It's just he's doing what feels, you do you, Rob Zombie.
That's right. That's right. So what do you have plans for going on? You mentioned before your work is got you between places. Is this because of your job that this is happening? Or are you trying to move and work a job at the same time? Oh my gosh.
Well, I have a slight job that I do freelance for some people, but the main thing I'm working on right now is a side project that I'm sort of investigating of local horror folklore in Wisconsin. I found a town where there was a werewolf story, and I was intrigued. I was like, an actual werewolf on the loose? Interesting. And then I found a town that had ghost stories and in a haunted cemetery. And then there was another town that had a lake monster. So I've kind of been going around and actually getting footage in documentation of people and interviewing folks and just trying to gather together information about all these local folklores and how come they're all similar and why are they all in the same place and when did they all get created. H.P. Lovecraft, his original stuff was published by a publishing house in Wisconsin. And I noticed that a lot of the stories in the folklore feel like Lovecraft stories. So I'm trying to connect all that together and just put everything together in a big bundle and see what sense I can make out of it. And then whether that becomes a book or a documentary or a podcast or I don't know, whatever, I haven't decided yet. Just right now, I'm trying to gather together as much information and make sense of it all as possible. And that's a project I hopefully will be unveiling down the road that people can make more sense of than what I just did. But yeah, look for down the road of hopefully a project where I get a chance to present my scary stories.
Okay. Will there be any future watch along at 3:00 in the morning upcoming?
Oh, you can almost guarantee it. The past we had a big period there where I was doing it every night because we were trapped inside because of the weather. And then that cleared up and we've gone back to normal weather. And then I had a few things going on in my life that were taking up time and were making me be up early in the morning. So I wasn't able to be awake at 2 in the morning. So I actually had to wake up at 8 and 9 for a while. But now that I've got that stuff cleared up, I'm getting back to my middle of the night schedule. So you can bet some night when I'm sitting around and I'm like, what should I do tonight? And it's like, well, maybe we'll watch, a good horror movie or a good crime drama or something.
Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Exactly. I think that I don't think I'd be allowed to watch that without my friend, the horror cat dad. That's one of his favorites. So look, maybe Larry and I'll get together and do a watch along.
That would be fun. That would be fun. Don, it's been an absolute joy to talk to you. I'm going to turn it over to the chat real quick. I'm going to ask see if they have any questions that they want to ask. Russell just mentioned a classic right there, Don Knotts.
The Ghost of Mr. Chicken is one of my favorites, Russell. That's an awesome pick.
And The Incredible Mr. Limpet was one of my favorites. With live action with the animation.
When Roger Rabbit came out, I was probably still a young kid. And I remember telling people, oh, it's kind of like Mr. Limpet. And they were like, how do you know that movie? And that's the first time I remember having to explain to people. It's like, I've seen everything, man.
That's right. Ladyfish. Yeah, Don, it's hard to tell people. It's hard to explain to people that, like, people like Jerry Lewis and Don Knotts were mega stars back in their day. Like Don Knotts won Emmys, I believe, for his performance as Barney Fife and Andy Griffith. A lot of people see him on they see him on Three's Company, but that was during his he's still very funny. But back in the '60s, Don Knotts was a big star. He headlined several movies.
He was kind of the Steve Buscemi of his day. Weird, skinny guy that people loved.
Yeah, very, very much. Late Night with Don. That's right. Let's see. Mayan says, "Get your priorities right, Don, because I need those watch parties."
Mayan is a classic example of what I'm talking about. That I'm up in the middle of the night because I have the sleep disorder. Mayan's up because she's taking care of 2 little ones. Other people are getting up for work. Other people aren't able to sleep and they want something to keep them company while they're trying to fall asleep. That late night movie host role has been there for a reason for 50 years. And that's kind of what I'm trying to carry the torch of,
That's true. I have insomnia myself. And
you've been to some of my watch parties. I love when you pop in.
Yeah, I've been except for my my internet provider, for some reason thinks that it's really cool to knock down my internet for 10 to 20 minutes every single night.
That is one of the only problems I've run into is most internet services will do their corrections and their updates in the middle of the night. So you're most likely to lose internet or cable service at like 4 in the morning or 3 in the morning. And that has interfered with shows before. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really frustrating because they don't give you credit for it, and they don't tell you that they're doing it. It's like, can we have an option on when we can have that? Because if you wanted to knock my internet down at 8 in the morning, I'd be down with that because I'm generally sleeping. But when you're sitting there at 3:30 in the morning and you do this, you're interfering with my work. I've actually lost. I've actually, now, like, I know the times they're going to do it, so I make sure I make sure that I'm not online during that time. Like I'm not doing a live stream, because sometimes I used to do a live stream. I'd be up a little late, but then they cut it off, and the next thing you know, you're sitting there like the disconnection. It's frustrating.
Well, even YouTube, when they do their technical maintenance with their programming and stuff, they're most likely to have interruptions or service issues around like 3 and 4 a.m. Eastern. That's the time when they're working on stuff because they know that's their least amount of use.
Yeah, and the ones that are using it were like, please don't do
it. Yeah.
Echo says he's got a watch along tonight for Valentine's Day. That's right. After we're done here, it'll be over. The party will slide over to the Echo side. I'm not sure who's hanging out with Echo tonight. but he'll be doing a Valentine's Day party. And I guess Lady Valarie, whatever dinner, what was it? Whatever was in Lady Valarie's dinner, awesome.
Yeah, it was
But
good stuff. So
you're Val, and thank you for we know I had a feeling when I asked her, I said, I could try to find another date, because it was Valentine's Day. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe she can get off a little early. And then she says, well, I'll be there. No, I still want to do it. We're going to be doing Valentine's dinner. And I'm going like, I was married once, still am. So I get that. And, it's not going to be easy. You're not going to be able to get up from the table after just an hour. So I appreciate Lady Val. We're going to have her back on co-hosting another show. Very,
she
very
was here
soon.
in spirit.
That's
She
right.
was, yeah. We felt her presence even if she didn't appear on screen.
Right. That's why we keep on doing sloppy hand hearts.
Yeah.
All right, boys and girls. I want to thank Don. I want to thank you for hanging out with us. I want to thank the chat for coming out there and being engaging as hell. We had a lot of fun tonight. I really do appreciate it. I hope you come back. I definitely would like to have you come back, and I will definitely be seeing you. As many as in the chat will agree with me. We'll be hanging out with you and Larry on your podcast on Fridays. What time is it on Friday? Is it 8 o'clock Fridays nights?
We've been doing 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. This week in the afternoon, I'm going to be doing a watch along with Video Tasties. Gareth and I will be watching Wild Things on his channel together. So the show might be about like a half hour late, but usually around 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central time is around when you can find us. But I want to make sure I catch that Corin Nemec interview with you. I told you, I'd reached out to you and told you, good get. I'm anxious to check that one out.
Yeah, I was really blessed with that one. I'm looking forward to talking to Corin. He's a really cool dude. I've talked to him a couple times on the phone. Really, really nice guy. And
I mean, even Parker Lewis Can't Lose I used to watch that all the time. That's cool guy.
He's done so much fun movies. He's got
The Stand alone. If he only did The Stand, he'd be worth having on. But he's been in a bunch of stuff,
And the thing about it is, though, he is perfect for our community because he's done so many fun things. I mean, it's like oh my gosh, I reviewed some of his stuff that he's done, and it was funny. It's really weird. It's like I know that he did a season on Stargate. I didn't have any Stargate at all in my collection, not at all. I went to the library last week, and I picked up a Stargate movie, and I picked up season 9 of the series Factory Sealed.
There were 9 seasons of that? Wow. 10? Wow. Because I remember the show. The original Kurt Russell, James Spader movie I liked, but then I knew they made some sequels. And when the show came around, that was one of those I was like, I'll binge one of these days. I didn't realize they'd gotten 10 seasons out of it. Wow.
And 10 seasons. And then they had the Stargate SG1. That was the original one. And then they had Stargate Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
That ran for like 6 or 7 years as well. All right, boys and girls. Tomorrow night we'll be here with director Joe Lujan from Carcass Studios, and we will be joined by special co-host Grace Juliana. Will be here with us. Actress Grace Juliana. She will be here with us as well. And then Friday at 8 o'clock we have Corin Nemec, as we just mentioned. And then Saturday at 9 p.m. we're doing our first 8 questions with watch party, and we're watching Gunfight at Rio Bravo. And that will be featuring the screenwriter and director Joe Cornett, along with the composer of the movie Sean Murray, and that will be at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So it'll be the first time watching a movie with the director of the movie. That's going to be entertaining, and he will be providing.
Awesome. That's a free commentary, is what you're creating there. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. And, so that'll be at 9 p.m. on Saturday here on the channel. All right, Don, stay right where you're at. Everybody else, thank you so much. We'll probably see you hanging out over at the Echo side. Happy Valentine's Day to you guys all that have significant others. Hold on to them, cherish them, take lots of pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.